My name is Sophia-Layla Afsar. I'm an artist, a therapist. I've been a lawyer before as well. And I am currently doing a residency with the new Art Gallery Walsall and the Indus School of Art and Architecture, Karachi. And it's on the theme of belonging and disbelonging, how we feel like we belong in spaces and our bodies, and how perhaps we don't. And I'm working with a UK-based artist as well, Alex Billingham. So Alex has her own way of working, I have my own way of working, and it's nice to have a conversation because we work very differently. But there are thematic similarities as well and overlaps. It's really nice to be working across continents as well. So I'm working with the gallery in Walsall and the gallery in Karachi. So initially I thought about what I call micro moments, which are little tiny moments in which someone feels excluded or included, or both actually. So it could be something like a facial expression or a word someone uses that makes someone feel either of those things or both of those things. So initially I thought about how my interactions with the diaspora community, which is an indigenous word for trans women in particular, and it's a culture that goes back 4,000 years. So since Pakistan and India separated in partition in 1947, the cultures have sort of diverged a little bit. It has taken on a much more intrinsically Pakistani flavor. In the last sort of 5 years, there's been a large shift in terms of public discourse around diaspora people, trans people. In 2018, there was a Trans Rights Act that was passed in Pakistan, which was very progressive. And that act has been the subject of conservative outrage. The indigenous culture is being attacked for being quote-unquote Western. And although this precedes any Western transness, that's what it's being portrayed as by religious conservatives. So this is a way for me to show the West also, and the UK, and practices in the UK, what trans culture and diaspora culture in Pakistan is like. Now, I started looking at what these experiences have made me feel in terms of belonging and disbelonging, and what the online bullying and harassment, what that has led to in terms of my own experience, right? Because I'm sitting with a lot of grief and I'm sitting with a lot of pain and hurt for people who have never met me, saying very, very nasty things about my existence and my religiosity and my moral values and my citizenship in the country. So while I was trying to process that grief, the thing that really resonated with me in terms of belonging was a sense of play. And when I felt like I couldn't go outside as much, I brought the outside inside. So what came up for me while exploring these little construction materials was a sense of a second childhood. Now, these objects are not typically associated with play, but they became a source of play for me. I didn't experience an authentic childhood in the sense that a childhood as who I really am, right? Feeling like I belong in a space, belong in my body, and using my imagination to make things that typically aren't associated with play or toys as toys. So googly eyes are a visual metaphor I've used since the beginning of my work, and it really nicely encapsulates the sense of looking and being seen. And they come in various sizes. This is the largest one I'm using right now, and they come in sizes that are, as small as this. So on the one hand, it can be quite playful. I mean, they are kind of cute, but it can also be quite sinister. And that interplay is something that I really like to sort of explore with people, to give them a sense of like, okay, there's someone else who's watching who could potentially come in and play with me, but there's also someone who could be watching from a distance and just like really judging us or wanting to observe us so that they can be nasty to us in the future. So yeah, I think they're quite versatile pieces, and I really like to sort of play with the gaze. So that's when the interpersonal started becoming relevant again. The composition is not important because it's about the interaction with the objects in the sense of a play. So you could be moving the objects around, you could be turning them over, you could be flipping them over, twisting them, whatever, throwing them, and getting a sense of belonging in the space. And what I'm doing is I'm inviting people to do that, facilitating it sometimes. Sometimes I'll use a pom-pom and I'll throw it at someone, or I'll wear a hard hat and pretend to take on a character or persona as a way of encouraging people to play in the space. So then it becomes an opening in terms of providing belonging in ways that are not traditional, with materials that are not traditional. So they've become toys, but they aren't toys intrinsically. I don't play because I'm stressed. I stress because I don't get to play. It's the other way around. So what it does is it enables people to emotionally regulate and feel more like they belong. So these things come together quite nicely, actually. So there is a sense of belonging, but there's also a sense of care, and there's also a sense of community. And I don't mean community in terms of any particular identity. It's just people existing together in a space, taking care of each other in the form of just doing things that are perhaps silly or something that we haven't done since we were little. My various ways of existing, my transness, my autisticness intersect. There's some research showing that like autistic people are more likely to be trans, and trans people are more likely to be autistic. We don't really know why, but we know it happens, and I happen to be both. And for me, that intersection is crucial, because if I go to a space and my transness is accepted but my autisticness isn't, then I don't belong. Going into a space where one is accepted but not the other has its challenges. And of course, if I'm going and interacting with a bunch of autistic people who don't understand transness, that also is exclusionary in a certain way. So that intersection is really important for me personally, but the themes are also there. The sense of how exclusion operates, the sense of how belonging operates, the sense of what kind of things you can say that make someone feel like they're welcome in the space, and what kind of things you can say that don't. What kind of facial expressions can you have that perhaps make you feel welcome or not welcome? What kind of ways of being and existing and navigating in terms of ritual and culture and those kind of things can make you feel like you belong. And it's also important because when I'm exploring one intersection, it also opens up a conversation in terms of other intersections, because different people will have different intersections, and making that conversation about belonging and disbelonging a bit more nuanced in terms of what are the different components of interpersonal interaction that can make you feel like you belong or don't belong, or both at the same time. That's what unlocks a state of being that is freer. And it doesn't really matter who you are. I mean, you could be trans, you could be not trans, you could be autistic, not autistic, disabled, not disabled. Play becomes this universal thing that can bring people together.